James Mason, who is our special assistant, helping me with this 2019 piece. Will you please welcome him, please?
Hey, good evening. You've learned a lot of information tonight. One of the things we wanted to point out are your delegation that represented you at the General Conference. Those are the people that were elected by the annual conference. There were 6 clergy members and 6 lay members. I'm going to see if there's anybody here, any of our delegation tonight. If you could stand up. And I do want to see Mitchell Hedgepath, who's one of the clergy representatives. He's the pastor at Brandon First. Am I missing anybody else? Okay, but just know that you were well represented by those delegates, and then also David Stotts was a reserve delegate. At this time, I'd like for you to take your program out. Everybody take your program. There's a few things we want to highlight here for you. And I want you to open it up and look on the bottom left section. You've heard a number of dates that were thrown out tonight. We wanted to lay those out for you chronologically so that you could see how all of these dates fall and when they're happening. But there are a couple of items that have not been talked about specifically that I want to mention. One is the period of Lent that the bishop spoke about earlier. During this season, we've got a devotion series that is ongoing where members of the Mississippi Conference are offering reflections on a book called Pauses for Lent. You see the web address there. You could go there and read them each day. If you go to the conference website and go to the very bottom, there's a subscribe button, and you could subscribe to get an email just for Lent with these devotionals in them. But also with that subscribe link, there's a number of other newsletters that you might want to sign up for to get information on, be it just general updates or news, maybe things about disaster relief, youth ministries. Those are some options you can sign up for. The other thing that I want to point out is May the 4th, the Mississippi Conference Day of Mission. As we've talked about this question and this issue, the debate, whatever moniker you want to use around human sexuality, that has consumed a tremendous amount of energy. And I know for many people it's a very intensely deep and emotional issue. One thing is, we are more than one issue in the United Methodist Church. On the day of mission, on Saturday, May the 4th, we're inviting all of you to engage in the mission and ministry that defines who we are as United Methodists. We're going to have work projects that are going to be going on all across the state that you'll be able to sign up for and engage in. And so whether it's with your UMW, your UMM, your youth group, or maybe just as an individual, we want to call you to get involved in some of the really exciting and positive things that are happening. So please save this date, and there'll be more information that'll be coming about it. Flip over to the back of your program. You'll see some training options. We're programming these for the summer, this summer between the May, June, and July. Now, as I talk about these trainings, if you don't hear anything else that I say tonight, I want you to please hear this one thing. This training is not about fixing anyone. It's not about processing anyone. It's about the process that you heard about earlier of sanctification. It's about us as people of faith, as Christians, being on a journey where we're continuing to develop and evolve and strengthen ourselves in our faith. During this season, we know that there's a lot of pain that is taking place, and we want to try to be responsive, and we've heard that. And so if these options, as I describe them, if this resonates with you and you just want more information, you're not committing to coming to anything, there's a web address at the bottom of the back of your program that you can go to, but also the little feedback sheet that you were also given that has a map on the back. On that feedback sheet, you can write down right here tonight, you can put your contact info and check that box, and we will keep you informed as this information comes out. But let me tell you very quickly what these different options are. The first 2 options are going to be made available online because for us to provide a high-quality professional training all the way from Iuka and Corinth in the north to the Delta and Greenwood down to the Gulf Coast, we've got to be able to leverage some technology to do that. This first option, called Courageous Conversations, would be just 2 90-minute sessions. This would be to begin to help you to have language to engage in some tough conversations. We've divided this into 3 possible groups that might represent where most of you would fall that would be most productive. The first group is Maybe what happened at General Conference has left you disappointed, broken, and your heart is broken. Maybe you supported the One Church plan or the Simple plan or the Connected Conference plan, and you're at a point where you're really trying to decide, can I remain in the United Methodist Church? Can I remain in my current church and congregation where I am now? These are some really tough decisions that a number of people are facing, and we want to help to, again, structure that decision-making process with integrity so that people can make the best judgment so that you can continue in mission and ministry in your setting. That's one group. The second group might be for the traditional plan supporters. Maybe the outcome was exactly what you wanted, but your heart is broken for a whole other set of reasons. Because they're people that you're in community with whom you've got differences of theological beliefs. And you don't know how to have conversation around this topic with them with sensitivity and integrity, and you're at a loss about how do I maintain this connection or this relationship. This group might be one that would be helpful for you. The third group, again, maybe the traditional plan is what you wanted to see happen, but all this update that you've just heard about judicial council decisions, and there might be some constitutionality, and that this might come up again in 2020, and you're at a very frustrated place. Then there's some specific conversations there. That's that first option. Again, 2 90-minute sessions over a couple of weeks period. The second option would be much more in-depth. And this would take place over 6 sessions. It would be over probably a 6-week period. These 90-minute sessions would take place in the evening times to make it most accessible. But we're going to be dealing with a number of topics here during this session. Some about the courageous conversations, but also many of you in your civilian jobs, how many of you have heard about the term crucial conversations? These are those tough conversations where you've got high stakes that are involved, you've got strong emotions, and you've got significant differences of opinion. Well, when you get into conversations like that, typically people don't want to have them, or they result in destructive communication. And people don't understand why that happens. And so we want to get into more detail there. Just a very quick example, because when you get into those kind of conversations, the body begins to process and produce adrenaline. And when you produce adrenaline, all of a sudden the blood in your body rushes to the extremities, to your arms and your legs, because it's triggering a fight or flight reaction. And so when we most need our higher order critical thinking skills, our brain is deprived and we're least prepared to engage in a very tough conversation. So we want to go through that with you, but helping people to understand how to deal with constructive conflict. The last option there is a train the trainer or an apostle model. Maybe what I just described to you, you said, well, that sounds really good, but boy, I would like to see that in person in my church. Okay? And if you would like to see that happen in your setting, this is where we would invite you to bring a person to learn how to do this training and offer it within your setting, in your church or your congregation. So please take just a moment, if any of that sounds like it might be something that you're interested in, and fill out the bottom of the feedback form, or go to the online address there and sign up for the updates. All right, at this time, we're going to begin to transition to the breakout sessions. The reason that we're doing these breakout sessions is because, as you can imagine, with a big group like this, and we've had groups that are as large as close to 400 people, in Tupelo was our largest one. It's hard to hear a lot of voices. The bishop talked very early on tonight about we need to hear from you. There's 3 ways that you can engage with us tonight. In these breakout sessions, you might choose to share. And we've got a moderator who will be taking notes and help people to process that discussion. The other way is that on that same feedback form, maybe you don't want to stand up and say anything, but you want to write down some things. I would invite you to do that as well. And then the third way is on this feedback form, there's a URL, a web address at the very top that you can go to once you get home. We'll leave this open until Tuesday, after we're having our last session on Sunday. But you want a little bit more time to process and give us some feedback. So a number of people are doing that.